BNI. So today we're going to talk about the leaky bucket syndrome, and this is from podcast 510. Now, some of you might be familiar with the leaky bucket idea and the concept because the name kind of explains what it is. But there's two elements to this or why we're talking about this today. Number one is the education approach to networking education and the leaky bucket that happens because of that. And then the second part is coming into the new leadership team and support team term, where we have new leadership team and new support roles and the training that accommodates that going into the new leadership term. So the leaky bucket syndrome is when you have things that are generationally degrading over time. Did I say that right? Degrading over time? They're getting like less and less information over time. Degrading? Yes, thank you. Are you an attorney? Like those big words. Yeah. So Mark, can you actually jump? So there's like this little quick illustration I'll leave in the video follow-up today, but I want to go right to this. So it's the process of generational degradation. So the information passes from one person to the next, and then things are leaking out of the bucket. Things that we've learned, things we've been taught, things we've heard are falling out of our mind and falling out of our communication process, just like the telephone game. And you all played the telephone game at some point in a training or as a kid. And what we found in BNI is a lot of what's taught is heard. Most of what's heard is recorded, like written. In fact, Manny and I were just talking about writing things down during open networking today. And then some of what's recorded is remembered. Now, I know that a lot of us in the room, we're kind of like successful because of our processes and because of our activities, and some of us are successful despite them. We are still successful even though maybe we don't write everything down, even though we may forget some things, even though we may not do the training we ought to or we could to get better results. And but we're successful anyways. So the takeaway here for to avoid leaky bucket and like plug gaps is to practice our learning. Now, in BNI, there's a lot of different ways to learn. So if you could switch that next slide, Mark. There's a lot of ways to learn in BNI. And I understand that I stand up here as an education coordinator and I'm supposed to support, I'm supposed to promote education, and I'm supposed to lead the pack when it comes to learning. But we're like this living example of the leaky bucket as well. Like here I am literally talking to you about takeaways from episode 510. We're not listening to 510, are we? So there's already one step of degradation in the leaky bucket. Now I'm going to tell you this. Some of you are going to write something down. There's another step of leak that's happening in the bucket. So we're already two steps of degradation already just in doing education. So it's kind of ironic that we're talking about it, and it's a metaphor for exactly what we're talking about when it comes to learning more and being on the front lines of learning when it comes to BNI. And that is the main takeaway from today, is getting on the front lines of learning when it comes to BNI. You might expect that I'm supposed to stand up here and say, do education units because they're going to help you in all these other facets of BNI. The truth is that they do, because there's more things you learn yourself firsthand, the better they can be deployed here in the chapter, in your one-to-ones, and then even in your business for things that are related to assisting you in that growth in your business as well. So we measure CEUs. We've been passing around the Power of One report, which shows your traffic lights, whether you're green, yellow, red, or gray. And I will also tell you that I've tested this myself. Many years ago, I kind of went on this pursuit, this quest, if you will. Like, all right, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when you do 50 CEUs in a year. You do one a week. And what happened is I had more referrals. I did better one-to-ones. There was more closed business. And I actually had things that I learned in that process that I could dump into my business processes as well. So I cannot honestly stand up here and tell you it was a waste of my time, because it wasn't. I can implore you to want to do more, and then hope that also by minimizing the amount of leaky bucket that's happening to you by being on the front lines of education, I can implore you to want to do more, and that will affect the outcome you're having here in the chapter. But it ultimately comes down to your choice, and I can't make you do it, but I can tell you ways to do it. So right behind me, you see in-person training, things like MSP, which Maribel, congratulations on finishing MSP. Leadership team and support team training, which is coming up for those of us who are going to be volunteering for positions in the new term. You have plenty of BNI books. I think there's 14 or 16 now. There's also the BNI podcast, which is the official podcast with Dr. Ivan Meisner, plus the BNI San Diego podcast, which we produce here locally. And then you have leadership roundtables that happen once a month. You have speed networking, which also happens, and there's education in that too, because it's an education moment. Then there's monthly coaching corner and online forums with the BNI directors and with Ed, the BNI franchisee owner himself. So there's a lot of opportunity for us to learn. And going into the fall and into the new term, I just want to encourage everybody to pick up something. Pick up one thing that you can adopt into your week that'll help your education personally here in BNI, and then dump over also into your business as well. Thank you. Back to you, Mark.